W-2 information to put online for employees to access, or pay stub information to put online for employees to access. So that's just a little bit about Greenshades, where we came from. That'll all lead into the two different solution sets that we offer, and I'll be talking about here in just a minute. We are payroll experts. We consider ourselves problem solvers, and we do work by a high ethical standard. Both of the company owners are Christians, so we are a Christian company. We have certifications at the Microsoft level for security purposes and through the American Payroll Association. And our solutions have also all been certified as .NET connected applications by Microsoft. So when we're talking about products that we offer, solutions that we offer, and things that we do, I like to group these into two categories. The first one is our compliance category, and the second is our employee services portal category. So the compliance is going to contain all of the items that we've talked about up to this point: the payroll tax reporting, the employee verification, garnishments, pretty much anything from a payroll or HR standpoint that requires a high level of compliance to be applied to the particular situation. The other piece of our organization is going to be the items that fall under our employee portal category. So these are going to be your online tax forms, W-2s, 1095Cs, 1099s, also the wage statements, pay stubs going out to employees electronically. From there, we grew that employee portal to a full service solution, including a lot of the things that you see on the screen. We'll go over each of those very briefly as we move along, but from where we're at now, we can kind of group all of our solutions into these two categories. One side is compliance, one side is employee services. So what we'll do is we'll start with the compliance category. And I always like to start with the very first solution we ever created. So a few minutes ago, I mentioned that when we built our first program in 1996 that took payroll data and created an e-file return, that solution grew into our tax filing center. So the Tax Filing Center is our original tax filing engine. It supports a ton of different types of files. So we manage all of the federal, state, and local payroll tax reports that need to be submitted. So at the federal level, we're talking 940s, 941s, W-2s, new hire reports. At the state level, wage reports, SUTA reports, and then at the local level, local withholding reports. We also have a ton of other solutions that are available within the Tax Filing Center. This screen here is going to show more in detail the specific reports that we create, especially just outside of those standard payroll tax reports that everybody has to submit. We do the custom 401k reporting, Bureau of Labor Statistics, EEO 8027. Outside of our payroll and HR solution, we do integrate with Dynamics GP in one fashion, and that is through payables to create the federal 1099 report. We also do the distribution of the 1099 forms as well. So we do have two different tax filing solutions. The Tax Filing Center that we've been talking about up to this point is an application that's installed locally. Our more recent and our newer solution is called the Payroll Tax Service. This is still going to handle all of the reports at the federal, state, and local level. It's also going to handle all of the payments that need to be submitted with those reports. So the Payroll Tax Service functions a little differently. It still connects to your Dynamics environment. However, it's not a local application. It's completely web-based. So all the data from GP is transferred over to the Payroll Tax Service website. It provides you with one portal where you simply press a button to have your federal, state, and local payroll tax reports sent off to the jurisdictions, as well as all of the payments that need to be submitted as well. This tool functions a little bit differently than the Tax Filing Center as well, because it provides active notifications to the user. The Tax Filing Center is an application that kind of lives in GP. You open it when you need to use it. You create the e-file when you need to submit it, and you submit it to the state. The Payroll Tax Service has a higher level of service associated with it, so it will keep you notified of different deadlines that you have for all of your different federal, state, and local reports. When we look at the Payroll Tax Service, we break it down into categories. We have the federal module, the state module, and the local module. Each one is a prerequisite for the other. So we have a ton of users that use us just for their federal reporting and their federal payments. If you use us for the federal reports and the payments, you can then add on the state reports and payments. Same thing with the locals. Once the states are added, the local withholding and tax codes will be available as well. So as far as the payroll tax reports and payments go, those two solutions create the sum of what we have to offer. The Tax Filing Center is a local application that lives in GP and creates the reports. The Payroll Tax Service is a completely web-hosted solution that lives online through our portal, creates the reports and payments, and provides notifications to the user when those are coming due. From payroll taxes, we expanded our compliance offering to include a garnishment service. Inside of Dynamics GP handles garnishments excellently. However, there are a few situations where the Dynamics GP environment, when it comes to garnishments, needs a little bit of help, and that's where our solution comes into play. So in an organization where the garnishments are very standard, very straightforward, there aren't a ton of them, our solution might not be the best fit. Where we come into play is when the garnishment process gets extremely difficult. So if there are employees that have multiple garnishment orders under the same category or across multiple categories, or if you have a ton of arrears that need to be tracked, our solution comes into play there. So with our system, the way the process works is you run your garnishments exactly like you normally would. However, the Greenshades tool is going to kick in once you get to the build process. And this is going to spit out an explanation report showing you exactly why we have changed what the standard GP process has come about with. So, for example, in a situation where an employee has, let's just call it 4 child support orders against them, if you run that garnishment in Dynamics GP, it might withhold too much from that employee to be legal at the federal or state level. So what our system is going to do is it's going to categorize and put a priority on each of those orders to make sure that you're only holding the maximum amount per employee and per garnishment, and then it will track the arrears. So the garnishment product kicks in while you're processing garnishments inside of Dynamics GP. Once you have the garnishment set up, the tool is going to run in an automated fashion and make the changes for you. So one of our big goals when using our compliance-related processes or products is to not give you extra steps through the process of what you're currently doing in Dynamics GP. We want everything to be built in and happen naturally as you go along with the process. So one of the next solutions that we built, this is probably about a 5-year-old solution. It's called the Dynamics Payroll Inspector. And I think it was named quite well because what it does is it inspects payroll in Dynamics GP. And it's built with a few different modules. So you get to pick and choose which tools you want. The core module comes with employee verification and address verification, which are 2 very neat tools anytime you have a new employee added to your Dynamics GP environment. The Dynamics Payroll Inspector is going to scan the information and alert you if there is information that's incorrect related to the employee's Social Security number or their address. We check with the Social Security Administration and with the United States Postal Service to make sure that that information is accurate. Outside of that module, there are 3 add-ons. There are tax updates and assignments. This is what we call our local tax manager. The local tax manager has 2 unique components. The first one being tracking local tax rates, because in Dynamics GP Payroll, all the federal and state rates are going to be updated automatically, but Dynamics GP out of the box does not manage local withholding rates. So our tool tracks about 13,000 different localities in the United States to make sure that the proper rates are being applied to each employee. It also then, once the tax rates are determined to be accurate, will apply those tax rates at the correct amount of withholding, and it does that at the local and at the state level. So at the state level, let's say you have an employee that lives in one state and works in the other. It can be difficult sometimes to determine at which rate to withhold that employee and how to manage the reciprocity. This solution is going to manage that process for you. So it'll do it at the state level and at the local level. We also have a sick leave management tool. The sick leave management tool is becoming more and more prevalent as time goes on. When we first started with sick leave management, there were just a few localities and a few states that had rules. And basically what these rules say is that if an employee works X number of hours, you have to accrue for them Y number of hours of paid sick leave. So in GP, there's no way to do this natively, and our users were having a really hard time tracking the amount of hours an employee worked and then accruing the correct amount of sick leave for them. So our system scans the GP environment, looks for employees that fall into locations that are applicable to these rules and regulations, determine the number of hours that they worked, determines the number of hours that they've accrued based on those numbers of hours, and makes recommendations on how many additional hours that employee should have. So it manages all of the sick leave regulations at the federal, state, and local level across the United States. The last piece within the Dynamics Payroll Inspector, a piece that some of you may have heard of at this point, is the Affordable Care Act tool. We actually have two different places where our Affordable Care Act compliance takes place. So this slide right here, you'll see twice. I'll only go over it in detail this one time, but the Affordable Care Act solution is built into two of our different solutions. So within the Dynamics Payroll Inspector, we have a full front-to-back Affordable Care Act solution. And when I say front-to-back, I'll explain what that means. So when we're talking about the regulations with the Affordable Care Act, the first piece that needs to be completed when dealing with the puzzle that is the Affordable Care Act regulations is determining which employees are going to be considered full-time based on the number of hours that they work. So our system, the Payroll Inspector, has a built-in tool that scans the employee's hours that they've worked over your measurement period to determine if they're full-time or part-time, and alerts you when employees have a status change. We are also going to track the offers of coverage that you've given to your employees, and then whether that employee waived the coverage or enrolled in the coverage, because when we're generating the Form 1095-C, we have to include all of that information. We also store the dependent information for the 1095-C for self-insured companies. When the whole ACA first came out and GP implemented their solution for GP HR, they didn't do anything for the payroll module in GP. So we built our tool to work in conjunction with just GP payroll alone, or with GP payroll and HR activated, which is the reason that we manage the dependent information, because in an environment where the user only had GP payroll, there's nowhere to store the dependent information for self-insured companies. So we built that into our solution. One of the main things that the Dynamics Payroll Inspector for the Affordable Care Act is responsible for is for alerting you when there's an instance of non-compliance. So for example, an employee should have been offered coverage, but they weren't. We send an alert to you, letting you know that you have an issue related to the compliance of the ACA. The next component is going to be if the coverage is too expensive. So our system does calculate all of the costs of your health plans to make sure that they're meeting the federal regulation of affordability. If we ever see that you are offering a plan that's too expensive, we alert you. And then moving on, as we get through the compliance-related aspects of tracking which employees are eligible and then tracking all of the offers of coverage to those eligible employees, once we get into December, January, and we're wrapping up the year, we're going to create the 1095-Cs for you and help you distribute them to your employees, and then also file the report electronically with the IRS. So when we talk about the Affordable Care Act, what your responsibilities are as an employer, the Dynamics Payroll Inspector is going to help from the very beginning of the process all the way to the end of the process. One of the ways that the tool helps is by distributing the year-end forms. So we manage the 1095Cs directly within our system. We also manage W-2 distribution, and then a ton of different types of 1099s and 1098s. There are 15 to 20 different tax forms that we manage and help employers distribute to their employees and their vendors. So all of our forms are created electronically. We create a portal where employees can access those forms. We also help with the paper distribution. So if you have employees that can't access or don't want to access them electronically, we have a print and mail service. We mail about 2.5 million forms every single year, and that's divided between the W-2s, 1099s, 1098s, and 1095Cs. So as far as the compliance related aspect side of our business goes, that covers the different pieces that we have available that help with the compliance process. What we're going to do is switch gears now and talk about the employee services side of our business. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some compliance related aspects built into the employee services. So for example, when an employee is filling out their W-4 or they're filling out their I-9, there are compliance regulations associated with each of those forms. Those are all going to be built into the employee services system to help you manage that process easier, but we're not going to consider this the compliance side of the business. So what we want to talk about initially is the employee core. So our base module of the employee services portal allows a place for employees to go. So it's a website that they sign into. We also provide a mobile application for iPhones and Android operating systems. We are going to provide the online pay stubs and tax forms to the employees directly through this portal. We also have a bulletin and message board to simplify communication from you to either groups of employees or individual employees. Employees are going to be able to receive notifications from the system, whether that be through a portal notification, a text message, or an email. This happens in an automated fashion, so your communication with them is completely simplified. If you do something that requires the employee to take an action or to have a notification, we send that communication out to them automatically. We also provide an employee directory and employer branding, so employers know that they're signing into the correct place. When they visit our website, there's no Greenshades branding. It's all branded to your organization. I want to share with you now some of the modules that are included outside of in the employee core, but outside of the pay stub and W-2 distribution module. We do provide a place for profile changes. Profile changes mean that an employee can go in and change their personal information. So, for example, if an employee moves, rather than going to HR or going to their manager with a piece of paper and their address written down, they hand that piece of paper over to the manager types that information back into Dynamics GP to update it. All the employee does is sign on to the Greenshades portal. They input their new address and submit it. Once a manager approves it, it automatically flows back into Dynamics GP. So the big advantage here is the fact that we have the direct integration with Dynamics GP. It eliminates users having to sign into GP to update information. It eliminates fat finger entries and simple errors when typing information into Dynamics GP. So outside of the profile change, we also offer a direct deposit tool where employees can indicate the direct deposit account that they want their money to go into. They can also indicate multiple direct deposit accounts if they want to split it up in any way. We do have a tool for employee documents. These are going to be your company documents. So, for example, if you have a handbook or a sexual harassment policy, or you have a group of employees that drive company vehicles and you need to collect their driver license information, we provide a module that allows you to completely customize the documents that are going out to your employees, collect signatures on them saying that they have received those documents, and also collect information from them if there are pieces that you need the employees to provide to you. We do employee evaluations, so tracking employee performance over a period of time through specific evaluations for groups of employees. We collect W-4s and I-9s as an onboarding type solution. And we also provide a management center. So if you have employees that report to a manager, you can give the manager access to just the employees that report to them to help with the approving of different forms. So for example, an employee submits a time off request in this group of products, and you want the manager to be the one approving those time off requests. You can delegate that responsibility to the managers to give them the ability to be the ones that are approving just for their employees. So that kind of moves us along to the second tier of the portal, which is going to be the time, attendance, and expenses. So we do have a full time entry solution available within our system. It's all web-based, so we have web time clocks, we have time clock kiosks that you can put in public locations. Employees can enter time into their smartphone application if you give them the ability. We provide a really simple format for edits to be made, whether that be by the employee, the manager, or the administrator. This is all going to be rules-based. So if you have different groups of employees, you can put different groups of rules into place to say how the system functions. So for example, if you have a group of employees that are out in the field and you want them to clock in from their smartphone, you can give them access. But the employees in the office that shouldn't be using their smartphone to clock in and clock out, you don't have to give them access. We also do all of the time off requests and balances. So we update the employee balances. They can log into our portal at any time and see what their balance is today. And then they can make requests against that balance that their manager would approve and ultimately synchronize back into GP. We also do the expense and mileage reimbursement. So as employees collect expenses, whether that be because they're traveling and they're paying for their lunch and they need to be reimbursed, they can do all of that through a mobile application by taking a picture with their smartphone, uploading the receipt. This all sifts back into Dynamics GP to generate the batch that is going to be paid out to the employee. These can be general expenses that are managed through receipts, or employees can indicate mileage based on an odometer start and an odometer end with a reimbursement rate. In the portal, same system that we've been talking about here for the employee services time. Do keep in mind that this is all one login. Employees are only going to see what you give them access to, but as you expand your offerings, employees only have one login. We do have a full service benefits management and enrollment solution. This is all based on a rules-based system, again, just like time entry. So different groups of employees can interact with the system in different ways. We do manage all of the Affordable Care Act compliance directly within this system. My next slide is, again, the same slide that we saw when we were talking about the Dynamics Payroll Inspector, and it manages the process the same exact way, except it's in a different system. So this benefits management system is going to be used for all of your company open enrollment events. It's going to be used for any qualifying life event, any new hire event, any status change event. And this is all based, because of our rules-based system, this is all automated, meaning an employee switches departments and becomes eligible for a new set of benefits because of that. We're going to automatically communicate with the employee. Or you hire somebody and based on your rules, they have 60 days to enroll in the plan. We're going to communicate with them automatically and let them know. We're going to push them out to the site. They complete their enrollment, and this all syncs back into Dynamics GP, again, to eliminate any type of manual entry. Now, not only do we synchronize with Dynamics GP, but we also talk to the carriers for dental health and vision through the EDI 834. The EDI 834 is a file that we build out specific to your organization, which eliminates the need of you having to communicate to the carrier which employees have enrolled in the plan or changed their enrollment or dropped enrollment because they're no longer an employee. This EDI 834 is an automatic file feed that talks to your carrier as things change in your benefits environment to let them know who is and who isn't enrolled in what. And we also provide custom reporting. Inside of Dynamics GP, there's a wealth of information and a ton of ways to grab that information. We give you some additional information within our system based on the enrollment, the offer process, and it's all built in a customized process that we can certainly help with. So Affordable Care Act, again, same slide. Everything's the same within the benefits system. It looks a little bit different, but it works exactly the same. We do offer a full mobile application solution. So this works with a number of the modules. There are a couple modules that don't have any functionality within the system, but this tool allows the employee to use their smartphone to clock in and clock out, request time off, look at their pay statements, look at their W-2s, upload receipts if they're creating expense reports, and also to upload documents. So, for example, if you need to collect some type of document from an employee and they don't have a scanner, they can just take a picture with their smartphone and upload it directly to you. So as of today, the solutions that we offer, those are all covered under the Employee Services tool, the completely web-based system that we have that interacts with Dynamics GP. Within the next, I want to say, couple months, the onboarding solution is going to be available. This is something that we've been getting asked for forever. I started here in 2012, and I got requests in 2012 for us to build an onboarding solution. So we are finally rolling this out. What's different about our onboarding process? Because today you can onboard employees with our solution. They can do their W-4, their I-9, enroll in benefits, tell you their direct deposit account, sign their company documents. However, they have to be an employee in GP first. So the way that the process works today is that you hire an employee, you add them to GP. On their first day of work, you sit down and you walk them through the process. This onboarding solution is going to completely simplify that process, because what it allows you to do is send a link to, I guess they would be an applicant at this point, but somebody that you're planning on hiring. You send them a link. They fill out their name, they fill out their employee profile information, their address. They do all of this pre-employment. It's a user-driven system. All you do is press a button to send them a link. They complete all of the details about themselves. Once you receive that information back from the employee and you approve it, it's going to synchronize into GP and create the employee card. One of the other pieces that this is going to manage that we don't currently manage today is the state W-4s. So within the system, it's going to house the basic employee information. The employee is going to fill out the information for their federal W-4. The state W-4 is part of that now. The I-9 is completed. The employee elects or tells you what their direct deposit accounts are. They complete all of their company documents, and then if you wanted to add, for example, the benefits management solution so they can elect their benefits, they can do that as well. So from the employee's perspective, they're going to go through, fill out all of this information. On the admin side, you have the ability to create an unlimited number of templates. So think of a template as a list of items that you require from a group of employees. So, for example, if you have a group of employees that work in a warehouse and you need some piece of specific information because of them, you can create a template that is available to a specific department or a specific location. So if different groups of employees require to have different types of information on file for them, you can set up those templates. You can also default values. So in this particular template, the position is going to be this, or the location is going to be this. This is how we populate the employee card in GP. You are going to have a ton of dashboards available to you. The dashboards are going to show any incoming onboarding request. They're going to have reports available that you can go back and look at all of your past onboarding requests. And then, again, the employee card creation is going to be the big component of this. So this is something new. We're planning on releasing it within the next couple months. I think that we'll have a demo site available in a month or two. So if anybody's interested in the true onboarding solution that we're coming out with, you can just let somebody at DFC know, and we can schedule a time to sit down and talk about it more once we have the demo site released. But this is something that's extremely exciting to us. the ability to create the employee card without having to access GP is going to be something that's will prove to be hugely valuable. We've been getting feedback for a long time saying that users want the ability to be able to create employees without having to have access to GP. So we talked about all of the solutions from Greenshades, starting on the compliance side, moving over to employee services, and then ending off with the brand new onboarding solution. I do want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen and to view what we have going on. I'd love to open it now if anybody has any questions, if anybody has any comments, and again, if you want to schedule a time to talk in a more one-on-one setting where we can tailor a conversation to your specific organization and talk about your specific needs, just let your contact at DFC know, and we are happy to do that. So I'll pass it back to you, Sabrina, and see if anybody has any questions, and happy to open a conversation at this point.
Thanks so much, John. It's really exciting to see, some of these new features you guys are coming out with. I think they're going to be very popular. I did unmute people, so if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them. Well, if we don't have any questions at this time, you can feel free to contact us at DFC if you think of any later, and we'll reach out to John. And like he said, we'd be happy to work with you and Greenshades to schedule anything further if you have any further questions or need more information. But with that, thank you so much, John, for joining us today. It was great to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.